The tinkle of a shopkeeper's bell, accompanied by earthy aromas of coffee and bread, momentarily blankets the hushed chatter, greeting Shin into the cafe. He exchanges a quick nod with the cashier before his gaze swivels towards his usual booth at the very back. Silver hair peeks over the divider. He's late. He forgoes placing an order and rushes to slide into the seat across from his waiting girlfriend, with an apology ready on the tip of his tongue. Sorry, he says, loosening his tie and undoing a button. I was in a meeting. Mm-hmm. Don't worry. I just got here. Lena smiles, leaning forward on folded arms and staring up at him through large, thin-rimmed glasses. Shin smiles back, tickled by nostalgia. She hasn't worn these glasses in a long, long time, not since Shin had been reassigned to a separate division within the office. Thin shadows from the window grid fall across her, and the contrast illuminates her argent eyes. Instead of looking familiar after years' worth of lunch hours spent in this booth, Shin's heart skips a beat. Did you order something? He asks, reaching out to brush his thumb over her knuckles. The usual. You? Not yet. Shin digs in between Lena's fingers and palms and overturns her hand to intertwine it with his. This close to the office complex, running into coworkers was a given, but he'd long since refused to keep physical touch to the minimum in public. Them dating was an open secret. They didn't speak of it explicitly, no one asked about it, and soon they would celebrate their third anniversary together. Together, in the living room of their shared home. The very thought sends a giddy laugh ringing through Shin's bones. He feels like a 16-year-old kissing his first crush whenever he thinks of these last few mornings. 2 toothbrushes in the cup by the sink. 2 mugs of tea and coffee waiting to be washed. 2 sets of shoes polished and ready to go by the door. Nothing was new. And yet, everything was. A waiter speeding past them with clinking glasses breaks Shin out of his reverie. Lena, too, seems to be lost in thought. What are you thinking about? Nothing much. Did I really just see you this morning? Lena says. She squeezes his hand and giggles. I'm still not used to seeing you in the morning. It feels like a dream. To Shin, the smell of newly painted walls seems like a dream. They spent 2 weeks hopping around drapery stores to settle on the curtains, and they still seem like an illusion when they flutter in the evenings. Here, this very booth, used to be the first place they'd see each other for so long. Knowing he woke up next to her without one of them having to drive back to their own apartment is surreal. It's the same for me. I'm not used to it yet. She squeezes his hand again, clearly pleased. We should get used to it as quickly as possible, then. Shin understands the glimmer in her eyes. Let's make more memories and make it so that being together is natural, it says. Let's buy some cake on the way home. Attachment. Lena closes her budget notebook with a sigh. They're in the red this month. Keeping their gifting and monthly date expenses aside, small, innocent-looking expenditures have piled up to loom over Lena's head like a thundering cloud. Is it simply inflation, or have they fallen prey to the stress of a home loan? They've just begun paying off the interest, and will continue to for another 3-ish years before they can chip the principal. Some days, Lena is so dreadfully caught up in their monthly budget, she forgoes cafe visits with coworkers and relies on the tea sachets and the hot water dispenser. Of course, it's not something she's going to tell Shin. Out of a weird sense of duty, if he knew, he would show up to her floor with a cup of something. Just instant coffee or milk tea dissolved into a cup of hot water, because he's no better than herself, really, looking worse for wear. You don't have to go overboard, he would say. We earn enough money to pay the monthly installments. We shoulder this responsibility together, so don't hold back all by yourself. And he'd say all of it with a small frown, leaning against her desk, with a hand sliding over the desk to intertwine with hers, almost knocking over the drink he would have brought. It's almost silly how easily she can hear his soothing voice ringing in her ears. She doesn't want to worry him. Speaking of tea sachets, Lena flips the notebook open to the transparent pocket at the back and chuckles at the torn sachet of lemon tea stuck in it. She sums over it, recalling Shin's expressionless face, but very worried, very fond eyes, from the time he'd snuck in lemon tea from his department because they'd run out at Lena's. As she clears away her bunch of receipts, she wonders if their monthly grocery budget can make space for a bag of good tea leaves. Dramatics. Frederica can't say no to her Auntie Una. She's as good as a second mother to her, and despite her rebellious streak, Frederica is a wonderful daughter who never gives her parental figures any reason to complain. Except for every once in a while when someone runs their mouth. But she's human, and humans make mistakes. Especially when they're relaxing away from university during summer vacations. Like breaking an expensive vase and pinning it on TP. Or like spilling imported coffee beans all over the kitchen floor and acting oblivious when Uncle Raisha wonders where the packet went. She's 20 and on the trajectory of becoming valedictorian for her batch. She can't allow trivial guilt to weigh her down. So when Auntie Yuna asks her to deliver some food to Shin and Lena's apartment, she leaves promptly. Within the hour, she's standing in front of their door in all her heeled boots and ripped jeans glory. She sweeps her gaze over the floor. An elevator and a staircase, then polished granite flooring and many identical doors on either side of the corridor. The two of them got lucky when looking for a place to live. After all, two youngsters with demanding corporate jobs couldn't possibly afford their own apartment in this area. But it's too silent for a Saturday afternoon. Even on her way up, she hadn't run into anyone but the security guard. Spooky. Admittedly, she's only been here twice before, and she doesn't remember seeing anyone except for Shin and Lena. Ever. The mechanical gurgling of the elevator moving resounds until it stops with a distant ping before it starts moving again. She rings the doorbell and stares at the ceiling. A plain, boring ceiling with plain, boring lights dotting its length. She expects footsteps, or at least a "wait a second" to follow the chime. But no, she's left alone in the eerily silent, steadily chilling hallway of a strange building. The bag of side dishes and ingredients seems to gain weight, dragging her arms closer and closer to the door. More mechanical whirring. A ping and the metallic doors slide open on this floor, to reveal no one. It's empty. She can hear her breath whooshing down her throat. She's 20, not 12. She can wait by herself. Totally. Are they not home? She mumbles when the next ring also goes unanswered. Don't you have any neighbors? Is anyone alive in this creepy building? She whips out her phone, cursing herself for not thinking of contacting them beforehand, and dials Shin. It rings exactly thrice before the call is disconnected. She stares at the screen, at Shin's annoyed face staring at her from it. How dare you hang up on me, Shinye? In her annoyance, she calls him again, only to have it declined. Somehow convinced this lazy idiot is ignoring the doorbell the same way he's constantly rejecting her calls, she presses the button rapidly with the intention to smash it. Ding, 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 ding. A crack appears in the door through which blood-red eyes, much like her own, stare her down. Go home. Before she can get a word in edgewise, the door shuts and the locks click in place. Flustered and enraged, Frederica drops the bags to the floor and stands with her arms akimbo, prepared to yell. How dare you! Fuck you, Shinye! I have no interest in seeing your moronic face either, but... No response. Your mother has sent me. Silence. Open the door and take these. They will spoil here. More silence. Would it be considered rude if she banged at his door? He's her brother, so she can do that much, can't she? And no one is around. Suddenly, she feels extremely childish, but she's been on edge all day, and being ignored does nothing to improve her mood. If she doesn't complete this delivery, she will feel even guiltier returning to the Nozen house. Damn that paper pusher of a father for running abroad without her. Before banging, though, she decides to smash the doorbell again when the door swings open, revealing Lena. A barefoot, sweaty, red-faced Lena with a haphazardly worn negligee, the hem caught on her hip, leaving a creamy thigh on display, and fingers brushing furiously through her long silver hair. Her bangs stick to her forehead, and while she isn't breathing heavily, she's fidgety. The dots connect as she looks back and forth between the reddish blotch on Lena's neck and her darkened lips. Frederica, would you like to come in? She's going home, Shin says from behind her, clad in only pajama buttons. He sets Frederica with a deathly glare, but the girl only smirks in response. She looks at Shinye and points at her phone pettily. To think you'd ignore me because you were having sex with Vladilena. The door thwacks closed again. yeah, that's it. That's it.